Hello, welcome once again to the Turret of Pleasure here in the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. I'm your host and the Lord Chamberlain of the Enchanted Kingdom. Zip Gun. Got a tough one today. This one's tough. The moral dilemma that I've been faced with twice now in only a couple of years. But it's a tough one. And it got me thinking about this actually. I was on an Orwell kick during the pandemic. And one of the I'm weird, I like Orwell's journalism. And these are great little books, they're hard to find now. Penguin put them out, The Collected Essays, Journalism, and Letters of George Orwell. And he did a lot of book reviews, he had a column called As I Please, which was great. He told you how to make a good cup of tea, he told you about the world's greatest pub. Fairly lightweight, really great writing, good sense of humor, a little bit sticky in his Marxism or socialism or whatever you want to call it. And one of the great articles in this book is called The Benefit of Clergy, Some Notes on Salvador Dali. Or more accurately, it's a review of Salvador Dali's then new autobiography, which came out in, I think it was 1942. And it's got some great lines. The opening line is, autobiography is only to be trusted when it reveals something disgraceful. And boy, you gotta love that one. I think of Lenny Bruce's autobiography. And he goes on to register his dissatisfaction with, I guess you might say, Dali's moral code. And he talks a lot about his sexual aberrations. He talks a lot about Dali's kind of cowardice during the Spanish Civil War. He astutely avoids taking sides and makes a trip to Italy. So Dali's the kind of guy Orwell's going to hate already anyway. And, of course, in this long book of 400 quarto pages, there is more than I have indicated, but I do not think that I have given an unfair account of its moral atmosphere and mental scenery. It is a book that stinks. If it were possible for a book to give a physical stink off its pages, this one would. A thought that might please Dali, who before wooing his future wife for the first time, rubbed himself all over with an ointment made of goat's dung boiled up in fish glue. This is one of the great book reviews of all time. And I've read it 100 times. I've big chunks of it like poetry. But he makes the point that Dali was a pretty awful guy as a person who made some truly amazing art. And what he calls the benefit of clergy is that we'll suffer the guy because we love his art, and we'll tolerate, put up with, or otherwise, live with everything that comes with the art. Anyways, I was reading this Salvador Dali book review by Orwell in Volume 3 of the Collected Essays. And he mentions that it's called The Secret Life of Salvador Dali. And I was putting this book away downstairs. This only happens to me. And I look and there's a pile of books sideways because they don't fit in properly. And I look and I see here The Secret Life of Salvador Dali. And I go, Empress Hermione, where did this book come from? And the Empress says, oh, don't you remember? I found it in a free pile. A free pile, you say? Oh, I had no idea we owned this. So you can best believe that I'm reading this. And Orwell is right. This guy is his own biggest fan. And he's a real awful dude. So, yeah. There you go. And this got me thinking about music and about artists who had made some great music, but who turned out to be really bad people. And I came up with three right off the top of my head. One of them is old news. We all know Gary Glitter. Okay. Gary Glitter, that oddball artist. I've got his best of somewhere. Maybe it isn't here. Maybe it's the studio. His biggest hit was the instrumental B-side of what was supposed to be his biggest hit, but they didn't want any vocals on it, and he's a vocalist. So that's his biggest hit, Rock and Roll Part 2. Used to hear it in every hockey rink in the world. And then he got busted with basically child pornography and possibly even child molestation. I think maybe in East Asia. Anyway, that was it. Done. Gone. End of his career. Somewhere he hides in shame. But that's nothing compared to the two main ones I want to talk about. Not a few years back now, I suppose. The great Ben Fong Torres wrote what so far at least is the definitive story of Little Feat. And a very good book it is, if you happen to like Little Feat, and I do. I actually quite like Little Feat. And so I bought this when I saw it, and imagine my surprise when I opened it up, and it says in it, where is it now? I know it's here somewhere. Their original lineup was the Lowell George, who basically was the main guy behind Little Feat. Bill Payne, the keyboardist, who was kind of the second guy. Richie Hayward, the drummer, who was also a major figure throughout his life, the rest of his life. And originally, Roy Estrada was the bass player. Roy Estrada was the original bass player for the Mothers of Invention. And I always really enjoyed his playing. Interesting, sort of straight rock and roll, but a good bass player, really solid. And when Zappa wrapped up the Mothers, Roy tried to do a bunch of different things. He ended up with these guys. And they were a brand new band. Nobody knew who they were. They put out a record that nobody bought. Pretty darn good record. Roy co-wrote one song. And then they did another record, Sailin' Shoes, which is a very good record. One of their very best, maybe in their top three. And, but after that, he got disaffected with the band. Him and Lowell George kept arguing about stupid things like showing up to gigs on time. And so, in an amazingly funny twist of fate, Captain Beefheart needed a bass player and came and wooed Roy Estrada away from Little Feat with the promise of more money. And Roy figured he'd be way better off with Captain Beefheart than with Little Feat. Boy, how wrong can you be? At any rate, he left Little Feat, joined Captain Beefheart's Magic Band. Now, it mentions in here that he is serving a life sentence for, God, I can't remember. Where is it here? I'm going to look it up. That's how important it is. I looked up a lot of this stuff kind of in earnest. At any rate, after the Beefheart band broke up, Roy Estrada went to I think he did a tour with Zappa again, sort of a reunion where I think he did a Priest imitation. And then I don't know, but at any rate, what he was also doing was abusing children, apparently. And if I've got it right, I could be slightly wrong on this, he got nailed for child abuse, I guess you would say. I'm not going to get too graphic because I don't really know. And he was sent to jail for, I'm not sure how long, but it was a good long time. And was released from jail. And I'm not sure about the rest of the story, but he was basically released and he went and reconnected with some family where he repeated his crimes with a close family member over a period of months, maybe a year. And he got caught again or somehow they charged him and convicted him. And he made a plea bargain at the age of, I think, 68, of a 25-year minimum. It's a life sentence, minimum 25 years before he could apply for parole, by which point he'll probably be long dead. But I had no idea of these horrific crimes until I read this book. And it really made me think, because I really like Roy Estrada's work as a musician. He sounds like a completely horrible person as a person. And there is your moral dilemma. And wouldn't you know it, no sooner had I sort of started to deal with this problem that I bought a bunch of great CDs by Philip Pickett and his London Consort, I believe it is. Now, completely different styles of music. We're just going right across the board here, folks. Pickett is an early music specialist. And what's more, here, I got these two records here. He was a master of things like the crumhorn. And I bought, here, The Alchemist was his first solo record. Came out on Decca. They had trouble with this one because they didn't know whether to market it as a classical or a rock record. Now, who's on it? Phil Pickett and a bunch of basically classical people. This came out in '89, and I bought this in a delete bin. There's the hole. And I really enjoyed this record when I bought it. It was quite quirky. Now, Pickett worked with a lot of people, the Albion Band, and he worked with Richard Thompson a fair bit. He was the guy that would show up on a whole lot of the different Richard Thompson records and provide the sham or the symphony or the crumhorns or whatever, the weird stuff. And they had some kind of significant working relationship because Mr. Philip Pickett, in big letters, Mr. Richard Thompson in smaller letters, did a record together for Hannibal. When was this? Now, and this is a really interesting record, 1998. And when was this one? This was 89, right? Yeah. And these are both, this is a rock record, really, but it's all early music melodies. So, Fairport Rhythm Section, that's right. So I do believe it's Dave Maddox, Dave Pegg, Simon Nicol, Richard Thompson. So it's basically Fairport Convention with Phil Pickett, and there he is on the bottom left. Anyways, he has also done a lot of records, pure classical records, for Loiselier, which is a label I will buy at any time in the thrift stores. And I found a bunch on a recent thrift store thing. I think I actually did a review of it. And it was really, really good. It was sort of a grab bag of, I think it was Troubadour songs. But really great. However, when I bought these, I realized I don't know much about Phil Pickett. Looked him up on the old internet. Of course, he's in prison for raping young music students in the quote-unquote soundproof practice rooms. And I'm just like, yay. At the school he taught at, which apparently was the school I think George Martin went to. Guildhall? Hope I got that right. At any rate, once again, the moral dilemma. This guy's made records I really like. Like, I really like these records. Really bad guy. So every time I play one of these records, and in the case of Roy Estrada, this covers a lot of records. You'll listen to it and you'll always think at least once, at least I will, this fucking guy's in jail forever. And listen to him get into the groove. And you feel bad. Because you feel wrong enjoying the person's work. Anyway, this is one where you can comment, because I'd love to know what other people think about this. I still listen to the music because I believe that the music is an absolute of its own. And if bad people's music wasn't to be listened to, then we'd never hear Wagner. And we'd never hear a lot of people's music. So that's sort of the way I view it. But, you know, like they say, it's November the 12th today, but not quite Remembrance Day. Never forget. So whenever I think of Roy Estrada, I think about he's in jail forever. And the fact that he was a good bass player before he went to jail. But always think about him and why he's there. Anyways, that's it for today. It's a weird one. Leave comments if you have an opinion. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the notification button. And all of that stuff. And take care of each other. We'll get back at you with other pressing matters. Take care.